How are you guys today? TGI Friday, right? So, thank you so much for joining me. And let me just start with my disclaimer. Everything I say is my opinion only, simply for the sake of conversation and having a discussion, hoping to gain education and potentially be educational. It's made specifically for the YouTube platform, which, as we all know, is an entertainment platform. So, I like to include all that. Say hi in the chat if you please, and then I'll know that the sound's working and we're good to go. But no one is there. Oh, there you are. Oh, you guys are so cute. Good morning from Colorado. Yes, good morning, Colorado. It's early for you. My goodness, like 7 or something. And Pixie Knickers, good morning, Jazz. So thanks, you guys. It's almost 9:15 here on the East Coast time. I am in Ohio, and it's Friday the 20th. Shall I start with a little house cleaning? Hey, Alistair Grant and Crime Story Diva, or should we just get right into the meat of it? There's a couple of cases I want to speak to today. Of course, the Idaho 4. There's just so much going on with that. And then I also want to speak about the Helena Hutchins case. In my little trailer, I said Helena Hutchinson. Apologies for that. Helena Hutchins, which, if you're not familiar, she's the cinematographer that was shot on the set of Rust by Alec Baldwin. I got a lot to say about that. Okay, hey Sifa, you need to see the post I share on her. 50 kids found cleaning a slaughterhouse. Ew, that's crazy, Sifa. That's so disgusting. Right. People don't realize that human trafficking is not just the sex industry. It's a lot of slave labor, basically. And there's also, this is really, really terrible, you guys. A lot of human trafficking money comes from the unspeakable, like body parts, tissue, that kind of thing. I hate to say it, but that's the facts. That's how it goes. It's insane. And a lot of that is actually not sold on black market, but some of it, of course, is. But, the lines get blurred. So I'm going to highlight that one right here. I heard about that. Sifa, such a shame and so very sad. Yeah, what state was the slaughterhouse or what country? Um, if that's America, man, we got to do better. But anybody, anywhere, we got to do better. The Midwest, Ohio's really, really bad for trafficking. It's considered, I believe, the worst state in our country because we've got Interstate 75 that goes from Florida up to Canada, straight shot, and then we've got Interstate 80, which is combined with Interstate 90, and we've got Interstate 70. So, and especially the intersections where the I-80 intersects with 75, which is in Toledo, and then where Interstate 70 crosses 75, which is north of Dayton. It's bad. And a lot of people have no idea. A lot of people that like live right there have no idea. It's crazy. It's like hiding in plain sight. Sifa says, and that problem is literally everywhere. I missed that one. I'm going to highlight that one too. So yeah, let's just get into it right away. It is so sad. My sister lives in Michigan and we used to be able to go over the border for dinner. Right. Not anymore, huh? Interstate transport. Right. So the trafficking is the human trafficking as well as the drug trafficking. No more too many kids taken from the theme park. Dilly Owens, which theme park are you talking about? Are you talking about down in Florida or a theme park? There's one outside of Toledo in Sandusky, Ohio. I think it's called Cedar Rapids. Anyway, if you know what theme park, that's freaking nuts. They go hand in hand in the drugs and the victims, right? And they drug the victims too to keep them complacent and to keep control over them. So I was curious to hear this, you guys. Let's just dive right in, and then we'll do the house cleaning stuff. Hey, baby, it's all right. Um, Lots of storms overnight here. Like the wind was so crazy. One of my dogs woke up in the middle of the night and started barking at the wind. It was kind of adorable and hilarious. Barking at the wind, sort of like howling at the moon. Anyway, this really intrigued me. I did not realize that the FBI experts are under the belief that the criminal defendant left his knife sheath on purpose. I really had no idea how many people were thinking that it was left intentionally or left unintentionally, and I could be wrong, but I have stood firm from jump that that had to be left intentionally, especially just with the placement of it, but with the fact that it was wiped clean. I mean, to me that's pretty sure thing, although you just never know, right? Nothing is a sure thing. Question: why can law tube creators or YouTube creators use all the words, but true crime can only use made up words for things like unaliving? It's really probably just for monetization, but also to make it more palatable. Um, so if you're not monetized, you can kind of speak more freely. And if you are monetized and you speak that freely, you might have that one video not monetized, or a lot of times it's just limited. So, personally, I prefer unaliving. Like at first, when I first heard it, I thought it was kind of weird and it took me a minute to warm up to it. So you said, okay, thanks. But yeah, I just think that it's a nice way to say, and especially when you don't know if that was accident, suicide, or murder, right? There's even a TV show called Accident, Suicide, or Murder. So it's crazy how any unattended death needs to be treated like a crime scene until foul play is ruled out. Every single unattended death of anybody, no matter what their age, no matter where the location is. And then if there is somebody present when that happens, obviously that's your prime witness. And that can sometimes be your prime suspect, depending on the circumstance, depending who you know. Just keeping it real, people. I think that one of the problems in the what I have found as a content creator in YouTube is that a lot of people don't realize how prevalent corruption is. It's all about who you know and who you are. And there's just, I mean, it's hideous. And I wish it wasn't true. I wish that I was just some freaking conspiracy theorist, but facts are facts, and it is everywhere. It's nationwide. Some places are worse than others. Um, it needs to stop. I mean, people's lives hang in the balance, and justice hangs in the balance. So, Susan says, Jazz, how are you this snowy morning in Ohio? Um, yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? It's like little magic snow globe. So, yeah, I'm doing well, thank you. Yesterday was my youngest child's birthday. That went extremely well, despite the fact that my second to youngest child was sick. And I took him to the doctor, and just so everybody is aware, which you probably are already, but the doctor said it was long-term effects of COVID. He had COVID over Christmas, like before Christmas, and my doctor actually said she also herself had COVID before Christmas, and that the problem with the COVID right now, it's not so deadly, but it is it hangs on. So I know that that's something that people have been talking about in the news, but it's right there in my household. So my poor 15-year-old son, he's just been kind of suffering under the weather, but it's all right. He'll be fine. And um, and then since the youngest one's birthday was on a school day, we're doing more tomorrow. So um, going ice skating. So that'll be fun. Um, So, I've mentioned to you guys before that I went to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, way back a million years ago in 1985 for about a year and a half before I transferred colleges to Evergreen in Washington State. And then it took me 23 years to move back to Ohio, but that's okay. Back to Ohio is always good. Um, so Miami University, I mentioned it more recently in the context of the high Greek life activity population that a lot of people consider Miami University just all Greek, all the way across the boards, 100%. Although technically, when I went to school there, it was 31% of the student body was in a sorority or fraternity, and it certainly felt like 100%. Um, so I know what that Greek life is like, and it's a lot of parties. It's a lot of out of control parties. Back in the day, in 1985, there were a lot of SAs at frat parties that were just the most deplorable, despicable thing under the sun, in my opinion. And there wasn't a lot done about it. The president of the university at that point in time in 1986, I think, before I transferred schools, went on public record saying boys will be boys. And we're talking multiple essays, and it was a routine activity on the weekends at the frat houses. Most people knew you don't go into a freaking frat house. Like, that's like walking into the lion's den. But, I guess if you think you're friends with one of them or you think one of them is your boyfriend or something, I don't know. Anyway, it's just disgusting. But my point in bringing it up is that that information was squelched. That information was not talked about, it was not publicized. At that point in time, there was also a very high rate of unaliving selves on campus. Higher than most, like, I don't know, maybe it was the same people that were getting assaulted at the frat houses, right? I mean, I hadn't even thought about that, my goodness, I'm sure it was. If they even were able to stay at school, there's probably half of them. Anyway, the self-unalivings were also completely underreported and not talked about. It was just considered bad publicity, bad for your student population headcount, bad for the bottom line, bad for the dollars to the freaking university. So I just want to state that's typical. That's absolutely typical. And right now, looking at the University of Idaho and other unalivings that have happened in Moscow that are denied or turned into something different. It's just not a surprise, and I think that we need to be suspicious of things like the young man that allegedly drowned in a creek outside of a frat house party. I'm pretty sure that creek was just like a little trickle, like, an inch deep or something. And of course, yeah, you could stick your nose into an inch deep of water and drown. That's possible. But it's suspicious. It's suspicious that, what, three of these victims in the Moscow Four were at that party, right? Ethan, Xana, and then I don't know if that was probably Maddie or maybe Kaylee. I almost said Kylie, I caught myself. So, um, so yeah, it's just Dilly, did you say what theme park you were talking about? A theme park in Michigan? I'm curious where the theme park is in Michigan. I'm thinking probably Detroit, maybe Ann Arbor, but I mean, there's Michigan, the whole state is like a theme park, in my opinion. It's just phenomenal. Um, anyway, let's get back on track with this. Um, so there's been talk about the criminal defendant going to the Mad Greek. We all know that, right? And I just want to throw in there a little curveball of interest that the Mad Greek restaurant, it says right on the marquee, established Sitka, Alaska, 1998, which is almost hilarious because I've been to Sitka. I actually had a job offer in Sitka that I accepted and then declined after visiting. It's not a bad place. It's a lovely place, but it's insanely small and it's 1,000 miles away, literally 1,000 miles away from the next insanely small community. So that was just a little bit much for me. But one of the things that my husband and I noticed when we were there, as much as we enjoyed it, the food sucked. It was in what year? Like right around 2000. And anywhere in Alaska, at least back then, and probably still now, I don't know. It's really hard to find fresh food. It's hard to find food that's not like 20 bucks for a hamburger. And I'm not kidding. I don't know that I refer to a lot of movies, but I think it's good for comedy to keep it light. Anybody who has not seen the Simpsons movie, it's all about Alaska and it's all 100% true. So, um, one of my favorite quotes from that movie, and please don't anyone be offended. Homer says, Alaska, a place where you can never be too drunk or too fat. My kind of place. It's pretty cute. Anyway, Sitka, Alaska, they don't have restaurants with fresh food. So a place like Mad Greek would be like amazing, amazing. And that would be a huge moneymaker because, yeah, you can sell your food for a lot of money because it's hard to find food, even in the freaking grocery stores, in my experience, in my opinion, in Alaska. And I've been there a handful of times. I love Alaska. It's just not a place I don't think I could live there. Even as much as I love Hawaii, I don't think I could live there either, but of course I do fantasize about it still. In 1976, I went to a small college where a frat member told a guy his girlfriend was having an affair, and he came back that night and beat her up so badly. That was my first experience with hazing. Gross. So gross. Um, so yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna try to stay on track. The Mad Greek restaurant has video footage of the criminal defendant going in there and getting vegetarian or vegan pizza a couple of times. So it was without incident. And I don't even know if on those videotape surveillances that are in the hands of law enforcement, I do not know if Maddie and or Xana were working on either of those occasions. And maybe there's more occasions that they just haven't found the videotape footage, but I would imagine that the authorities are poring over that with a fine-tooth comb, and some of it maybe was taped over. That happens, unfortunately. Um, my bad. It was Cedar Point that I think in Ohio. Were there a bunch of kids missing from Cedar Point? Yeah, that's the one in Sandusky. Yikes, but Toledo itself, which is right there, is considered like trafficking capital of the planet, in my humble opinion. And SeaWorld, I think. Now, I don't think we have a SeaWorld in Ohio, but you must be talking about in Florida. Dang. Sifa, are you going to be on the CNY family panel? Oh, was CNY talking about that? Because I saw she had one yesterday about kids. Good morning, Sis Vicious. How are you doing? Um, Good to see you here, and thanks for being my mod. Thank you everybody for being here. Um, and let's see. Squirrely Burger, I don't know if you redacted your message on purpose. You just said good morning, or and Dilly Owens, you did it too. I was about to read yours. Okay. So, yeah, the criminal defendant started liking the pictures of Madison on August 16th. The first picture that the criminal defendant liked of hers was a photograph of her with all four of her roommates. So the five of them. And, you know, it just leads you to wonder if perhaps she may have been the target as opposed to Kaylee. I mean, that's still up in the air as far as I know. I've been keeping a close eye on those things because I have a feeling we're going to be finding out very soon which one of them it was that was the target, the intended target. She did invite me, but I have Tourette's and I struggle to verbally communicate fluently, so I don't think I will. Um, well, I'm sorry that you struggle to verbally communicate. Sometimes I do too. And yeah, it's okay. I mean, whatever you're comfortable with. I know you do great work on the computer, so if that's your forte, then that's your forte. And Rhonda says it was a post 12 hours ago. I don't know when I literally got on YouTube right before you went live. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that was the CNY. I saw that it said something like parents, you need to watch this. So, I that piqued my interest. So, do we know Hive? Let me ask the Hive if you guys have the information. Did the criminal defendant move to Washington, to Pullman, Washington in June? And then moved into his apartment in August, because it looks like the apartment wasn't leased and moved into until August, but it looks like his mother was posting on Facebook that he was moving in June. But she also said in that post that her 26-year-old son was moving to Washington State across the country. So was that post from a year prior, or was she just doing her fuzzy math the way we all can sometimes? Um, oh, and she invited me too. Oh, well, that's so sweet. I love CNY. She's quite an inspiration. I am feeling a little bit behind on some of my stuff, so I don't know that I'll have time to do that, but I will if I can for sure. Sis Vicious says you'll do great. You should. If people can suffer through me rambling on and on during panel discussions, I guarantee you'll be just fine. You know, when I was first invited onto Kelly's panel discussion with What's the Obsession, I was like, literally, like, I don't think I have anything to offer. Like, I don't think I have anything to say. And she was like, oh, yeah, you do. Trust me. And once I was on, even the very first time, was pretty comfortable pretty quickly. And I think I did have a lot to say. There was a lot that came out of my mouth. I had a lot of ideas, and hopefully it was valuable. I do try really hard to just not speak if I don't feel like it's relevant, even in these lives with you guys. You know, um, I try to be concise and to the point, but I do like to sprinkle in some entertainment too. So, good morning. I will be listening in the middle of making lemon cake. Ooh, that sounds heavenly, heavenly clouds. What a great idea. Lemon cake. I do love lemon. So, I was struck yesterday by the list of items that were seized in the search of the criminal defendant's apartment. I was particularly struck by the fire stick. And I mentioned in one of the videos yesterday, precisely because there was a fire stick in the Watts case that I thought was under investigated. I'm 100% sure that it was 100% under investigated. And that fire stick, I thought, and I don't know anything about them, but I just thought there had to be so much more to it, and that it could have even been code for something else. So, for people who don't know what I'm talking about, Chris Watts had a fire stick allegedly that he met up with one of his coworkers on Friday after work in a parking lot of like a public store. I don't know if it was like a Walmart parking lot or something like that, to show him his fire stick is the story. And then that same employee, I think it was Friday night, it might have been the Thursday night, but the unaliving of Chris Watts' wife and children happened on Sunday night, Monday morning. And that same person that he showed the fire stick to was one of the first people out there at the site. And there was a handful of people that were out there at the site, I think maybe 90 minutes after he got there, maybe not even that long after he got there. Um, but there was a lot of suspicion. That same individual, and forgive me, I can't remember his name right now. Maybe somebody does. I'm thinking Tony, but that's not right. Um, he also went back to the site to Survey 319, or was it? Yeah, Survey 319. I think that's the right number. He went back there the following day, I want to say Tuesday, or maybe it was later Monday, by himself. he said out of curiosity, he was like in deep shit for doing that. The authorities were very suspicious of him. But then when Chris confessed to everything, it cut that investigation off. It was ridiculous. That's not how it usually goes. Usually, investigations continue to make sure that the information matches with what the criminal defendant is saying, because you can't believe what a criminal defendant tells you, even if they're confessing. Criminal defendants don't tell the truth, like about 100% of the time. Period. That's like a known fact. And especially the first story they tell you is never the truth. You might get to the truth after a whole bunch of stories, but let's see, Sis Vicious. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Watts the Obsession really helped me get my confidence up, as did Paula Plunder. I like to give both of them accolades as often as possible. She said the same thing. She'd been encouraging me for a long time to do my own channel. I was like, me? Why? I have nothing to offer. And she was like, same as Kelly. She was like, oh, yes, you do. Yes, you do. So it's really sweet that they both encouraged me. I know I wouldn't have ever done this without their help, without their encouragement, and then without seeing so many of these other content creators like CNY that really inspire me. I get very inspired by so many of these folks. And Kelly is so welcoming. Yes, Sis Vicious is one of her regulars too. She's great. And for anyone wondering, her channel is What's the Obsession. Thank you. And are you able to drop the link? Please do if you can. Her channel's phenomenal, and she just did a 14-minute or less video last night. So I know a lot of her panels are longer, because pretty much any panel is going to be longer. And sometimes she shores up shorts from those longer discussions, because she knows not everyone has the time and inclination to watch longer things. So if you're interested and you don't know What's the Obsession, check out her 14-minute video from last night. I already had the opportunity to watch it, and it's just loaded with information. She's really good at packing it in, isn't she, sis? Oh, Troy, thank you. Caroline Ciano. Am I saying your name right? Caroline, you are the bomb. I was so close with Tony. I put that out there, even though I was pretty sure I was incorrect. Yeah, the guy's name in the Chris Watts case with the fire stick is Troy. And Troy and a few of the others were very suspicious. I mean, obviously, NK, extremely suspicious, and her friend Jim, who had a key to her apartment. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of effery with that case. And, you know, What's the Obsession has been hammering away on that case for the last couple of years. I want to say Armchair Detective has been hammering away on that case for 4 years, ever since it happened. And I am so glad that they do. And I don't think it's repetitive. I think it's important. I think that justice still needs to be had for those beautiful people that were taken off the face of the earth. I wonder if they took it to capture any gathered data from connected devices that may have been deleted, non-recoverable from said device. Anything we can connect to collects a ton of data we don't realize. Right. And I guess that those fire sticks do so much more. They do so much more. So I don't know. In this day and age, all of our technology is just flying by leaps and bounds consistently. So maybe there's nothing a fire stick can't do. I do not know. Hey, Caleb Lee. Good morning. I will take lemon cake, please. Very cute. Unless you're a psycho. What, Sis Vicious? You're not a psycho. Unless you're a psycho like me who reads terms of service. Oh, you're so funny. No, that's really smart to do. Let's see. I'm getting a little bit behind. You can transfer files to your Fire Stick from your PC or Android. Yes, that's amazing. How do police protect evidence to keep people thinking they planted it? Like, could they take a dog hair from the house and say they found it in BK's apartment. There's so much to be said about that. So I don't want to I want to be really careful about how I discuss the case. I don't want to say anything that could be the slightest bit damaging to finding justice for the victims and their families. However, I'm floored that they released the whole search warrant um, Wednesday. I'm floored. So it was Tuesday, I think, that the judge signed the order, and they were planning on holding it over until March 30th for quote unquote the safety of the victims and the witnesses. So what changed? I'm so suspicious. I'm not going to stop with this one. I'm so suspicious of that photograph, the still shot taken from the Corner Club surveillance camera at 1:32, according to the timestamp on the surveillance camera, of Kaylee and Maddie speaking with Jack, and then Jack S, or that speaking with Jack D right in front of them. Jack S is in the photograph and the still shot. Adam is in the still shot. And then the man without a face is in the still shot. And I am so grateful to Sifa for enhancing that photograph. And I used that for the thumbnail yesterday with the close up. And it's so weird what they did to like blur out his features. I don't know if that changed Sifa from the way you enhanced it, but rather than looking like it's erased or smeared, it kind of looks like there's like a piece of tape over it or something. I mean, it is bizarre. It's like kind of square. It's really, really creepy. But I want to know why that information was not discussed in all of the speculation and suspicion of Jack D, Jack S. I don't think Adam was ever really under suspicion, but we all know the what did you tell Adam? We all know about that. Why was this information suppressed and it's still not really being discussed? I feel like it needs to be discussed. I feel like we especially need to know who the faceless dude is with his thumbs hanging in his pockets, just like some other dude's thumbs hanging in his pockets. Look at my community posts, look at the photographs there. And you can also see a photograph there of the actual bar owner. That dude, is his name Tim? He bought the bar at least 11 years ago, and I think he was in his 20s, like no older than 28 when he bought it. So he might be 40 now, and the man in the photograph without a face to me looks much older than 40, like at least 50. But I just think it's bizarre that whole thing, and it's, again, it says so in the information that was just released, the arrest warrant, or I'm sorry, the search warrant. It says that police have had that videotape surveillance from the Corner Club this entire time. So they knew who was there with the girls. And when you put information out like that to the public, it can help the public bring you more information. So, you want to have some transparency for that reason and for public safety. Grr, 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 grr. So, yeah, it just makes me really wonder, like, why are they releasing this 97-page document a month and a half early unexpectedly? I mean, I'm glad that they did, but at the same time, it just, you guys know how I am. I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of everything, especially something like that. Like, that's pretty huge. Um, yes, let's see. So yeah, how do they protect evidence to keep anybody from saying that they planted it? It's a very good question. I mean, you think back to Mark Furman with the bloody gloves and the O.J. Simpson case, um, and now we've got this freaking, not a latex glove, a nitrate glove from the apartment in the list of items seized. And then there's that mystery love that Chris from the interview room, Chris McDonough, claims that he saw by the trash can over Thanksgiving, so a couple of weeks after the horrible unaliving. I don't think that those two black gloves are made of the same material, but it's kind of odd, isn't it? Like all of a sudden these glove things. Plunder has such a soothing voice, doesn't she? Yeah, she's really good. And YouTube closed her down for a while and she had to fight to get back on. That was crazy. I mean, they kind of went across the boards and I think closed down like all true crime channels sometime this last year. Let's see. Would have tackled it from Jump Street. Thank you. Fantastic Friday. Caleb Lee, I thought you said Fantasy Friday at first. Okay. Yeah. What's the obsession? Here, Sis Vicious put the link. So I'm going to kind of speed read through, get caught up. Hey, Mrs. Amir Zaza. It's like Zaza Gabor, Jaja Gabor. If somebody knew how to do a resume, we could get about 68 people on. We just never totally leave Watts Island, do we? I can't, not until Vicious, not until justice is had for those precious lives that were lost. So despicable, and so despicable how that case was mishandled. Unbelievable. Really messed up. I mean, criminal, absolutely criminal, in my opinion, my humble opinion, allegedly. My conspiracy theory, humble opinion, allegedly. There we go. I wouldn't know what to do without my Fire Stick. Yeah, I don't have one. I do have Roku, but I don't think that there is much alike as I had thought previously. From what Chris Watts said, he said it was just like a TV thing. I'm like, yeah, right. Sure it does about a million other things. I don't know anything about Fire Sticks, really nothing about technology at all. I'm with you. Everyone, don't forget to smash the like, and thank you for being here this morning. So yes, it's always nice if you don't mind hitting that like button, subscribe if you have yet, and sharing the videos is the best way to help. The very best way to help a creator is simply by watching their videos. So all that rest of what we just said is extra, and it's much appreciated that you're here. So thank you. That one post said they went offline for weeks before and after. And I'm not sure who you're referring to, Lisa. They did use burner phones. If you don't mind restating who it is that you're referring to. I don't want to go back when I'm trying to catch up. It gets so confusing and time consuming, and we are already close to 40 minutes. So I want to try to shore it up. Oh, I love that. Sish Vicious. Are you really changing your name to Sish Suspicious? Did I say it right? Yeah. Although I love Sis Vicious so much. But yeah, Sis Vicious is Sis Suspicious. I don't know. It might be too hard to say it. So it's the lighting and the shadowing mixed with the pattern of his facial hair, I think. Okay, so yeah, it's always interesting when you put filters on things, what it does, and it is bizarre to me. It makes it look like they really were making sure that there is no way that he could be identified, right? Like there was no filter or cleaning it up that could be done to figure out who that is. But obviously it's on the videotape and law enforcement has the videotape. And if that's Mr. Fry, I just won't even go there because maybe it's not. Maybe it's just some other guy that looks just like him and holds his thumbs in his pockets just like him. I mean, we can try to figure out how tall he is from the still shot, right? Because he doesn't look that tall in the still shot, and that other person doesn't look that tall either. So, and I think he's standing next to Adam, but Adam's sitting down, but he's standing by the door. And I don't think they have one of those things like they do at convenience stores by the door to measure how tall someone is. But you know how tall a door is, basically. So you could pretty much figure it out scientifically just from a screenshot like that. All right. And thank you again, Sifa. You're awesome with all of that information, all of those emails. I love it. No logic for the timing of release. You have to look at why and what the intentional distraction, in my opinion. Well, and to me, it was almost, this is my suspicion, that they're trying to sway public opinion and say, look, it's a done deal, signed, sealed, delivered, wrap it up with a bow, bad guy off the street, over. And they're also trying to kind of leverage him maybe to get him to confess. But I'm extremely suspicious of what you just said. That to me, it seems like an intentional distraction. Like, I want to keep focusing on getting some answers about the corner club posse with two of the victims that were unalived shortly thereafter. That no face guy might be covering for Jack. Well, Jack D is there. So, I mean, and it's being admitted by Kaylee's family that that's 100% Jack D sitting there talking to Kaylee and Maddie. 100%. Like, there's no question. That's Jack D, according to her family, that's a known thing. Hey, Phantasmic Ether and Pixie Knickers says, that's what I thought. If you're not skeptical in today's culture, you sleep in. I agree with that 100%. Yeah, I mean, I think too many of us, even us YouTubers, take too much at face value. And just because a law enforcement official says it does not mean that it's true, does not mean that it's accurate, does not mean that they really know. They could be misinforming, they could be disinforming. So it could be intentional, it could be unintentional, but you just never know. And especially when they go all wishy-washy on you and go back and forth and say, oh, it was definitely targeted, it was definitely a crime of passion, this, that, and the other. And then they say, no, it wasn't targeted. Well, maybe the house was targeted. I mean, yeah. Rhonda says, did they all have multiple stab wounds? I always wonder if 911 had been called, if like the boy or the other girl could have been saved. I don't think any of them could have been saved. I think they all had multiple. But then it appears that Kaylee had gouges. Sorry, I didn't give a trigger warning. I apologize. But probably everyone here has heard that before. That's been on many channels. So, yeah. And I don't know. Again, trigger warning. A while back, it was being discussed that one of them might have been so gravely injured that it could have almost been a decapitating kind of thing. So I don't know if that is confirmed. If it is confirmed, then that's pretty obvious that that person is absolutely most targeted if only one person had that type of injury. But I don't know that that's true. So I don't want to be misinforming anybody about that. That was kind of on the table several weeks ago. And then there hasn't really been any denying of it or confirming of it. So I do not know. But yeah, I don't think anybody could have been saved. But you do lose a lot of your information and your evidence in your investigation in those first 24 hours, especially the first 48 hours. But, right there, law enforcement lost the first 8 hours of their investigation, gone. And we all know how much can be accomplished in 8 hours as far as cleaning, concealing, or planting. I mean, we got to look at these things. They say he has no mental health issues, but if you can do what he did, then what is it? Right. I mean, as a mental health professional, again, I will reiterate what I said a few weeks ago, which is that, it is helpful to delineate the specifics about a mental health problem. And at the same time, it's pretty much you're either doing well or you're not doing well. It's like your physical health. You're either in good health or you're not in good health. So yeah, I think any criminal is not mentally well, in my opinion, in my professional opinion, in my humble opinion, however you want to say it. Um, OJ's love shrank so much that being put away with blood on it, and he did not even try to put his hand in it in court. I know that whole thing with the blood shrinkage when we were talking about it. I think that was yesterday. Grr. I think it was on that Reddit thing when it first happened. And again, I'm not sure who you're speaking of, Lisa. Um, why else would they blow his face? Yeah, right. I mean, obviously they're trying to conceal something. I mean, that's 100% obvious, and they're trying to conceal it completely and entirely. So, it really spikes the curiosity. I forgot how tiring it was to make a cake. I never heard of crystallized ginger, and that's kind of hard to cut, but I got it in. LOL. Oh, that's so funny. I know cooking is a lot more physical labor than a lot of people realize. It's almost like a sport. I mean, especially when you take it to these levels that they do on like the Top Chef and those TV shows. It is like an Olympic sport. Um, all right. And let's see, getting caught up. Anytime you need an image cleaned up, just let me know. I enjoy doing it. Awesome. Thank you. I'm sure I've got some that I can email to you. And the document that came out and with BK and listed the victims, I heard that the order of the victims is the order of their death. So Maddie was listed first and she was the first to be killed. Heavenly Clouds, I have heard that too. And specifically, I've heard that from What's the Obsession. I think she talks about it again in this 14-minute video that she just dropped last night. But that typically in an arrest affidavit, they will list the crimes in the order that they happened. And what's so significant is that the list of the victims in that order is Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and then Ethan. It's the exact same order that the two surviving roommates got tattoos. And I think about 20 other friends and family got those same tattoos with the little angel wings and the initials in that order, I think. And I think they got those tattoos like right away, like the very next day. I'm not 100% on that if anybody knows. But if they weren't told the order by law enforcement, and I can't imagine that they would have been told because, trying to preserve the integrity of the investigation, the chances of them getting that exact same order, according to Kelly from What's the Obsession, the chances are less than 1 in 300. I didn't put it into my little Google calculator, but she did. And she said that with 4, the chances are less than 1 in 300. If anybody wants to double check that to see if she was doing it correctly or she had her fuzzy math. I know she was tired when she did it, so I'll give her some leeway for that. Anyway, let's try to get this one shored up so that there's a nice space of time between the morning live and the afternoon live. So yeah, if they were oft in the same order that those 2 girls got the initials tattooed, and I think the other 20 family members or friends had the initials with the angel wings. I know that there's photographs online of all of them at a tattoo parlor or tattoo shop, um, or should we call it a tattoo gallery? Um, and that there's videotapes of them getting their tattoos and photographs and such. Like one of the people was Maddie's grandmother, and she's like in her 90s. It was her first tattoo. That's kind of cute, although they are painful. I've had a couple. Maybe they knew what they were up to. I hope not. I sure hope not. That would just be insane. But it's definitely a red flag. I will say that straight up. Those initials being in that same order is shocking, in my opinion. It's absolutely stunning, especially with the mathematical explanation of less than 1 in 300 chances. Okay. Hey, Kale. Good morning. Thanks for coming. I agree. I'm guilty of believing people when I shouldn't. It's hard not to. It's really hard not to. And yeah, you don't want to be so skeptical all the time, but you do. You do want to be so skeptical all the time, in my humble opinion. Like all their friends cover up for them. 9 minutes to do all that damage. I just don't know how one person could do that in that short of time. Right. And it had to be planned. I mean, the whole idea that maybe he went in there for just one assault. Um, no, I don't think he could have gotten in and out of there so quickly. Hopefully it was as quick as possible and they were all with someone who loved them more than anything. Just happy none of them were alone. You know what, Jaded Warehouse? That is a beautiful thought, that they all were with people who loved them unconditionally. That is such a beautiful thought. Because, yeah, the other part of it is the worst. Absolutely the worst. I figure that's the most torturous thing for the family members. Jack's face is so clear and he's way further from the camera. Just saying. Good point. Thank you for that super good point. Yeah, I mean, they definitely obscured. If you haven't yet seen the thumbnail for the video that I did yesterday morning, it has a close up zoom in of Mystery Man's face. And if you can zoom in on that thumbnail, you'll see what I'm talking about. It looks like a piece of plastic is like set over the image. It's very bizarre. It's very squared off, not like a perfect square, but very straight lines, like angled. I've never seen anything like it personally. Crystallized ginger, use a food grater. There's a hot tip. Yeah, because that would be hard to cut, especially if you didn't have the best knife. Dad said it was him, exactly. And yeah, the mother and the sister confirmed that it was him, and that he didn't have any scars on him. He didn't have any bruising. He didn't have any cuts, which that doesn't mean he didn't have some part in it directly or indirectly. I'm just not convinced, especially when he's got 3 freaking alibis, people. That needs to be explained. Like, I could just end this video right here because there's nothing else that I think is as important as that. Why did he have fake alibis, especially when the police knew? That pisses me off. Okay, about to get off topic, but there were people special, but they were for people special and murdered in a tent that were decapitated. They ever find out who did that? Ew, awful. The judge issued another gag order. But yeah, why is the judge releasing that information 6 weeks early and then reissuing a gag order? That's I don't know. That has me scratching my head. I'm just curious why. Tell me I'm confused. I feel like I'm going to brainwash. Oh, yes, definitely Jack Day or Jack D, and then pack all the box. We get something new coming. Good morning. It's bizarre they'd pick the initial order that way when seemingly no real rhyme or reason. And so ironically, biggest flag for me was they got the tat so quickly right after it happened. I had first heard that they got those tattoos same day, like on Sunday, but I have trouble believing that. And I've also heard that they got them the following day, Monday, which is still pretty interesting. I can see getting memorial tats, but right after seems so odd. I wouldn't think of that right after such an intense, crazy, chaotic trauma. I don't think you would. I really don't think a normal person would be thinking, oh, I know, I'll go get a tattoo. I mean, you'd be so blown away by the trauma and the horror of it all. You'd have trouble thinking. You'd have trouble functioning. You'd have trouble sleeping. You'd have trouble walking, you'd have trouble eating, you would have trouble everything. You'd have trouble talking. Like, I mean, some people might even go mute in a situation like that, right? I've been extremely reserved on comments about the roommates, but I will say I find it terribly curious that DM could be so frozen in shock and fear in a house with 4 DOAs, but get a tattoo mere hours later. And got it in the oven. All right, you got a bun in the oven. Um, let's see. It is weird. Yes, it is. How his face looks, whoever it is, blurry face. Yes, Pixie Knickers. That's my point exactly. It's 100% bizarre. I've never seen anything like that. You are right, Xena. Jack D is sus. I think he is. I said it yesterday and I'll say it again. Um, I got Jagger vibes from his making an Instagram page for the cute little doggy Murphy. I totally got Jagger vibes. You had Murphy out on a pier. Oh, wait, we had Kylie out on a pier. You know, he posted about how beautiful the sunset was and how he saw Kaylee in that sunset beauty. Jagger made posts exactly like that about Kylie and the sunset and her beauty. And I was kind of freaking out. Okay, I'm gonna wrap this one up, you guys. I'm going to speed read through these. I want to try to get this done so that I'm not going over an hour, just to be considerate of all of our time. And I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm not reading these out loud. I'm just trying to quickly. Rhonda, that's such a great comment right there. I'm going to pin that one. So traumatized to have a tattoo to remind you of a vicious attack, all your roommates being unalived, and a lot of things don't make sense to me. That is so well stated, Rhonda. I mean, that's what's so bizarre is when we just accept these things like, oh, yeah, they got tattoos. But yeah, why would you want a tattoo to remind you of that trauma, especially so early in your trauma? I could see potentially down the road as part of the healing process, but that is really, really weird. Um, Heavenly Clouds, you think Jack D is imitating Jagger? Well, thank you for agreeing with me because I thought I was just like hung up on Jagger because I have always, always, always suspected Jagger. He's never been off the hook in my freaking mind. How was the birthday? The birthday was great. Thanks for asking. I think I have everything in this video that I was trying to get. Let's see. So yeah, if you guys have any information and can come up with any clues maybe for the afternoon live about if the criminal defendant may have moved to Washington State in June of 2021 because his mother states in her post from June that he's 26 years old when he would have been 27. His birthday was, I think, 8 days after these crimes that he's accused of committing, and he's 28 now. So if he did move in June of this year, where was he staying before he moved into the apartment that he allegedly moved into in August? So, and Dilly Owen says that she's been looking into his drug use because they don't get methadone in the hospital and a jail. I mean, interesting. And Rhonda R says, I agree about Jagger. Well, and like I said, those creepy vibes from Jack D, everybody was like, oh, how cute, a picture of Murphy. And I'm just like, ew, really? Like, isn't he like too busy mourning the homicide of his dearly beloved woman of his dreams? Like, he's making puppy dog profiles? I don't mean to be harsh, people, but that's just a little too much like rainbows and unicorns and lollipops at such a point in time, in my humble opinion. I'm going to say peace out, you guys. I will see you this afternoon. It's almost a quarter after 10 right now, so I'll be shooting for about 1:30 ish. maybe 2 o'clock. And I hope you have a great day. I hope you can get some exercise, some sunshine and fresh air and great nutrition, high protein, high produce intake, fruits and vegetables. Twice as many veggies as fruits is what they say is ideal. I don't know if I ever achieve that, but I try to keep it in mind. Um, and just take really good care of yourself. Keep your stress level down, stay relaxed, be kind, be humble, and make sure other people are kind and humble with you. I'll talk to you in the afternoon, hopefully. Thanks again, and sending you the love and the light.